Good afternoon, kids. Dad here on what I believe to be Sunday, July 19, 2026. It's, hot o'clock in the morning. Just finished a 10K at a miserably slow 11-minute and change per mile pace. I know this July is just sucking the endurance, sucking the speed out of my legs. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there, because I'm here today to talk to you kids about the fifth step. The fifth step in my recovery program, which is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another person the exact nature of our wrongs. So as you recall, kids, step one, I'm fired. I suck at life. I'm the least qualified person to manage my life. I have failed. I am fired. Step two, I got to figure out some sort of power greater than me to put in charge of my life. Step three, I got to make the decision and say, okay, you, higher power, are my new boss. You are not my new manager. You are now in charge. I'm taking direction from you. Step four, as I talked about yesterday, I had to make a list of all the things I was afraid of, all the things I was angry about, and all the relationships that I had done wrong. That one was tough, but the book tells me that unless I do that immediately, my recovery can have little lasting effect. So I was blessed because I did a good step three, where I put my new higher power in charge. I was fearless and thorough in my fourth step. But then comes this fifth step, kids, one I was terrified about. Because I had written down on that piece of paper, along with things like one of my big fears, afraid that I'm a bad father. Ooh, that one hurt to look at. I'm afraid of being a bad father. It's one of my biggest fears. Having to examine that and look at the rhymes and reasons for why I feel that way. I had two other things in that list that I was never going to tell another human being. I was going to take them to the grave, pretend they never happened. That's how bad I felt about them. Well, now this step five. At that point, I call my sponsor. His name's Ryan, incidentally. I said, all right, Ryan, got my step four done. Now the book tells us I gotta admit all this stuff to you, huh? He's like, yeah, well, let's read the book, see what it says. Sure enough, those are the instructions. I gotta share it with another human being. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I was never gonna write this down on paper. Now I gotta say it out loud. I double checked to make sure I was alone in Larry's house where I was staying at the time. And I figured, why dance around it, right? Get the hardest one done first. So I told him out loud the name that was on my piece of paper. I told him why that name was there. Told him what I had done to harm that person. And some of the things in me, my insecurities, my ego, that led me to do those things. And then what I could do to make it right. My part in it, what I could have done differently. And I said that, and I was shaking as I said it, kids. I was trembling. My voice was cracking. And he sat and listened as I spilled it out. And then he says, you know what, Ryan? I don't think I answered because I was still just shaking and couldn't put any words together after saying that. He said, you know what, Ryan, I did that too. He said, me too. And I felt this wave of goosebumps flush over me. Just this release of this guilt and shame that I'd been carrying for years and years. Knowing that another man had done the same thing. That he was comfortable enough to talk about it. This is a man I really, really admired and respected. That he'd done the same thing. He was able to admit it. And that he didn't tell me that I was a horrible person. He told me he loved me anyways. Then I went through another big thing that was on there, and boy, everything else, I don't remember talking to him about it much because it's just kind of a blur. There was nothing else after that big thing that even came close. Yeah, I was selfish, egotistical, fearful, led me to a lot of lying, being self-centered. But the interesting thing was I went through it, came to see those are things I did. Those aren't who I am. And I started, over the course of that fifth step, that process, I recognized some trends. And I thought I saw them on paper. But when I read them out loud and was talking through them with another person, helped me recognize some that I had missed. I started to notice some patterns. Because he would say things like, oh, I noticed that sounds kind of similar to that other one you had. Oh, yeah, I guess those are both kind of the same kind of thing there, aren't they? And through the course of that, it was about a 2-hour conversation, I came to realize that my fears and my insecurities drive me. That I'm just this scared, shitless big kid who wants to be liked and loved by others. And my fear of not being liked and loved by others leads me to bullshit, to lie. And leads me to overcompensate with this thing called ego, where I try and puff my chest up and say I'm a big deal. I'm really important. Because it's all just to compensate for what is at my core, a scared shitless little kid, that people aren't going to like me if they knew the real me. After doing that with another man, I felt like there's nothing in this world I couldn't do. I just admitted my deepest, darkest secret, and he loved me anyways. And the wild thing is, about 4 or 5 months later, I'm sitting at a lake around a campfire with my mentor. He's somebody, he's not an alcoholic. Rick, my mentor. So I don't really work with him on sobriety stuff, but I work with him on a lot of divorce issues, a lot of parenting issues, a lot of career issues. He is like my life coach, my mentor in so many areas of my life. But I was sitting around a fire with him, and we were talking about you kids. And he was asking, when at the time, when do you think you get to see him again? Why is your ex-wife being so challenging, so difficult, so resistant to you seeing the kids? And I told him kind of casually, I didn't realize as I said it, but I said, well, I did. And I told him this secret. And I caught myself right afterwards. I said, whoa, I just said in front of a bunch of guys, a bunch of close friends in front of a fire, this thing that was my deepest, darkest sin for years and years of my life that was burning me up and eating me up inside. I just openly said it around a campfire. And later that night, Rick pulled me aside and told me that he didn't want to say it in front of all the guys around the campfire. But then he confessed something to me too, that he'd done years ago, that had been one of the secrets from his deep, dark past. And he doesn't tell many people, but he wanted me to know that he'd done that thing as well, and he really respected and appreciated, admired me for sharing about mine. And that was a pretty special moment. That really, to me, crystallized the power of this honesty. That I have no guilt, no shame anymore, because I've told other people my deepest, darkest, worst, most unforgivable sins, and they loved me anyways. And through sharing those things, through talking about them openly and honestly, which I won't do here, but through doing that, typically, one-on-one conversations with people, there's some power in that where it can help other people. Turns a little bit of that pain into a purpose. And it helps me to remind myself and continue to be reminded, not to dwell on it, but to learn from it. To remember that those are things I did. They're not who I am. And who I am is defined by the actions I take today, by the way I carry myself, by the fact that I pray every morning on my character defects and ask God to alleviate those from me. But that's getting ahead into step 6, kids. So step 5, basically confessing my deepest, darkest sins to another human being. That was powerful for me. And I was so grateful I did, because it took this weight off my chest that had been suffocating me for years. Hope someday, kids, that if you ever are interested, you reach out to me, ask me what was on my 5th step. I would tell you kids about that. You deserve to know. In due time. I love you so much. We'll talk soon.